And welcome back, everyone, for an Office Sports Today with Renee Washington. I'm Baker Machado, and EA Sports is bringing back its NCAA college basketball game in 2028. This after it was shelved 20 years ago almost. This comes after EA's college football game also just came back just recently. This, of course, having to do with NIL, because players now finally are able to get paid in all of this. So let's bring in the guy who broke this news, Matt Brown, founder and publisher over at Extra Points. Matt, such a pleasure to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. So why did EA Sports decide to bring back college basketball?
Yeah, it's a pleasure. This is the question that I was asked by fans more than almost anything after doing so much coverage about the developments and bringing back college football for last season. And the math was always complicated because unlike the college football video games from the early 2000s, the college basketball games were not nearly as best-selling of titles. These were more niche entities. They didn't move nearly as many units. But the commercial success of College Football 25 just blew every projection out of the water. For internally at EA, from financial analysts charting everything. And between that and the ability to license athletes' NIL rights at scale, which is now much easier, the financial viability of a college basketball product looks a little bit different. The CLC put out a request for proposals for several different entities that make games to see if they wanted to be involved in making a college basketball game. And EA is the company that believes the most in this project, not just for men's basketball, but also for women's college basketball.
I love how you touched on that because I'm curious, since so much has changed since the last game was released in 2009, especially in the NIL space, but also women's sports space as well. Matt, I'm curious, how has the new college landscape really impacted the look of what a college basketball game is going to be rolling out as with EA Sports?
There's been massive changes. I mean, it's going back to really the last consumer titles we had for college basketball. Not only is the number of schools in Division I different, the layout of the NCAA tournament's different, roster building is completely different now that we have a transfer portal, we have NIL, we have way more transactional rosters, which has to be changed. You have to change how the game engine and recruiting process works. But also, I think the commercial viability and interest in women's basketball is very different. Not just because of Caitlin Clark, but really over many very marketable players and teams over the last couple of years. And gaming's demographics in general have shifted to be include more women, to include more older individuals. It makes sense to target and include both of these sports in one particular standalone title. There also wasn't really online play as nearly as big of a deal for consoles in the late 2000s. Now that's standard for every single game that comes out. It is deeply integrated in the revenue projections and marketability of those games. That was a big part of why the college football game was as profitable as it was. And I would imagine that's going to be a significant component for college basketball games. This is a not so much restoring of previous IP as it is a chance for EA to create something completely different that just happens to include college basketball.
Matt, we have about 60 seconds left with you. This comes on the heels of questions of whether or not EA will be able to keep the Madden video game going. So is it possible that EA doesn't have Madden anymore?
It's possible. The licenses do change sometimes. FIFA was an integral part of EA Sports professional soccer branding for many years. Then that was pulled. They're still able to make the same games. Sometimes individual team and league licenses come and go there. They've had a very long run with EA Sports and Madden. That's part of the foundation and history of electronic arts. But these deals don't last forever. And as the NFL feels like it makes more sense to open this up, it's certainly possible.
I mean, that would just be crazy to think of Madden not being part of this whatsoever with EA Sports. Matt Brown, the founder and publisher over at Extra Points. Matt, thank you so very much for joining us.